this video we're going to talk about commit management. What do I mean by commit management? Remember that on Juniper devices or on Junos devices, we have both a candidate and we have an active configuration. So remember that this means that whenever you enter configuration mode, you're going to get a candidate configuration, which is a copy of the active configuration. So any changes you do, in order for them to be applied, you have to do a commit. So there are several options that you can do while doing commit. So those options are, some are platform dependent. For example, commit sync basically means that when you have two REs, you want the commit to be synced between both of them. This can be done automatically, but if it's not configured, it must be done in that fashion. So let's jump into a router and actually check them out. So here we are. So let's jump into configuration mode. Let's change something. Let's go to, for example, system services. Let's see what's there. You can see we have FTP, SSH, and Telnet. Let's say we want to enable Finger, for example. So we enable Finger. We can check it out with show pipe compare. We see that it's there. So now, in order for this Finger service to be run, we have to do a commit in order to be started. So we can do a commit. If we do a plain commit, it will just do a check to make sure that everything is as it should, that we are not trying to do anything impossible, or we're not missing any commands. For example, we'll see later on what happens when we try to use an incorrect network address or an incorrect combination of network address with a wrong network mask, and see how the system doesn't allow us to actually commit that configuration. So we don't simply commit there. We need to specify any options. It will do those checks and enable the configuration, as we can see there. So let's delete it. Okay, so we delete it, and now that's another change. So let's see with some of the options. Remember that you can use the context-sensitive help at any point to get more information. So for example, we have here the option and quit. So basically what that means is that it will quit the configuration mode if commit succeeds. So if all the checks passes, it will just exit. Because remember, if we just do commit as I did before, it will leave me in configuration mode. And typically after I do commit, I finish with all the configuration I wanted to do. So it's just saving as an exit command. In practice, I do it quite a bit. Another option we have is commit at, which basically allows you to specify a time when you actually want to apply the configuration. That's very useful because depending on your environment, or depending on how critical your environment is, maybe you can only do changes in the middle of the night. So you don't actually have to be logged into the device. If you reviewed and tested your configuration, you can actually just change it on the device and tell, okay, so you can apply this change tonight at 2 a.m. or whatever date your local enterprise policy allows you. So this is quite useful. It's a good option to have, and you don't really need to have any sophisticated tools to do this. It's built into the OS. Another option we have is we can actually tell the system commit check, which won't apply the configuration, but it will check to make sure that you don't have any mistakes. So if you want to do it before you actually press commit, you can actually do that. So, for example, let's put a static route with a bad subnet mask and see what happens. If I go to the top, let's say set routing options static route 202.202/24. That's wrong because that should be 0. And next hop, any next hop, doesn't really matter, it doesn't exist. And we can do commit check. If we do simply commit, it will also check and it will fail. But this is a way of doing it before you won't apply any commands. So here it's giving me the error, so I know that I actually have to fix it. So let's put in something that actually works. So let's say we have anything. No, we don't have anything. So let's move to system services again. See what we have there. Let's remove Finger. So we remove Finger and we do commit. For example, we do commit check. And we see that it tells us that there's no problem that we can actually deploy that configuration to the device. You see, it tells us configuration check succeeds. So very useful. So what other options do we have? We have the option of adding a comment to the commit. So we could do something like this. If I type comment correctly, and for example, I can add my last name, and I can say finger not secure, and maybe I could add date or any other info that's relevant to my environment. So if you actually have this device on an environment where many people are doing configuration changes, you can have a log explaining why that configuration happened. So, maybe that configuration happened because of a security issue, or maybe that configuration is just part of an audit or anything like that. It's just more information. It's typically, if you work in an environment where there's many administrators, it's typically a good thing to do. So let's do another change. Let's delete telnet, for example. See what other options we have. One very interesting option is the commit confirm option, because the commit confirm option actually, if you just put it by default, it will tell you you have 10 minutes to basically confirm your configuration. So what does this mean? This means that if in 10 minutes you do not confirm, it will automatically roll back. So that's a great feature, for example, if you're doing anything security related. So maybe you are filtering something, and I think we've all done it at one point or another, that we're applying a firewall filter, or we're applying an access list or something, or we have a mistake, or we have an omission and we lose connectivity to the device, because now our management session is being filtered by that recently put in place ACL or firewall filter. So this is one way to actually avoid that. With this, you could say, okay, let's apply this and let's put commit confirm 1 minute or 2 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever. And if I don't get any actual answer, if I have a mistake, I will lose connectivity to the device, and it will automatically roll back, and I won't have to go out in the middle of the night to the office to connect via console or some other way to the device. So for example, here it will tell me a minute has passed and tell me that if I don't confirm in 9 minutes, the configuration will roll back. So let's just, for argument, let's just commit it there. We can actually see it doing an automatic rollback in a minute. So let's see what we have here. So we have FTP. Let's delete FTP. So delete FTP and let's say commit confirm 1 minute. And let's now confirm this one and see what actually happens. We're getting a message here that says, commit confirm will be automatically rolled back in 1 minute unless confirmed. And if we keep doing show, it will actually tell us as well. So as we can see, I haven't confirmed the change, and since I haven't confirmed the change, the system has gone ahead and automatically rolled back. So again, very useful, especially when doing security stuff. It's a precaution that's never a bad thing to actually do. If you don't have any problems with your filtering, you won't have any issue confirming, and if you do, it will roll back in a timely fashion, so you won't have to live in the middle of the night to the office, or worse, get on an airplane. So we can see here it's telling us that commit was not confirmed, automatic rollback complete, and if we do a show, we can see that FTP is back on. So very good stuff. So as we know, every time we do a commit, the system actually creates a backup of the previous configuration. So in case we actually want to move back, we can do it without any issue. And it's done with the rollback feature. So, and we can actually compare different rollback versions. There's a command called show system rollback compare, where we can compare any number of them. So let's compare, for example, 0 with, I don't know, it's random one, 14, for example. So for example, the system is telling us now that our configuration compared to, or the rollback 0 compared to rollback 14 doesn't have these different options, which is a couple service that doesn't have FTP, but it has telnet, and doesn't have this particular static route that we're showing there. So it's a very neat feature to have, and it's very useful. remember that, for example, if you have 75 commands and you need to add them for a very specific thing, mind a temporary link or something of that nature, or a firewall filter. So if you want to remove that, you would have to go and manually remove those 75 commands or 50 commands, or the amount of commands you have to remove. And that approach is typically error prone, and here you can actually do it with a single command. So very useful. It's basically just using in configuration mode rollback and the number. So for example, if I go, let's say we saw before rollback 14, I think. So let's see the difference now between our active configuration and the rollback 14 we just loaded. Basically what we saw before. So basically we're going to delete FTP, we're going to add telnet, and we're going to remove that static configuration. So we do commit. The changes happen very quickly, very clean. So it's a very good feature. So now let's test the functionality of save and load. Basically, save and load allows us to save some part of the configuration, some output to a file, and load, if its configuration allows us to load it back on. So let's test that out. Let's load. Now that we're in configuration mode, we shouldn't have the static route. So let's put the static route back in. So let's say set routing option static. Say let's keep going with my friend 2.2.2.0, and next hop let's say 1.1.1. Doesn't really matter. We can see now if we show compare. we could save this. Let's save this into a file called R2 or anything we want. That basically is going to save on the entire configuration that we have to a file called R2. So let's say now that I wipe that change off. So if I do rollback and nothing else, I'll go to the previous configuration that didn't have that static route, and as we can see, there our active configuration is exactly the same as our candidate configuration. So we can actually, let's say that we actually want that static route, so let's use the load functionality. We can do load. There's different options, including factory default, which is a way on how you put a Juniper device back to factory mode. We'll see it later on. You have the option of merging the configuration, of overriding the configuration, and a couple other more. Let's test override. So we can go load override, and we can go R2, which was the file name we saved previously, and we can load it. It says load complete. It will check the syntaxes, and if you have any issue, it will complain that it can't do that, or maybe that file was actually done by hand or something like that, and you missed a bracket. It will complain. So if we now do show compare, we can actually see the static route there, which means that you were able to load it successfully. So it's a very nice feature, especially if you do batch configuration. If you deploy 20 devices, if you're trying to deploy 20 devices with a similar configuration, you could use templates and do it like that with using save and load. So it's a good feature to know and to be familiar with. So to sum up, we talked a little bit about commit and different options that we have. Interesting things such as commit confirm that allows us to have a safety net when doing complicated changes, especially with things like security and filtering. We talked a little bit about the rollback functionality, and lastly we talked about save and load